All right, everybody. Welcome to today's session. What's going to be happening this afternoon is we're going to showcase some innovation maps, basically a visualization of this subject of startups and entrepreneurship. We know that a lot of people did not actually understand throughout the week what we were trying to lobby for. So in this session, we will showcase the work that's been done by an organization called Brighter Bridges. What they do basically is they develop innovation maps. So we sense that the sort of innovation map that we need in Botswana should be what we're going to discuss in this session. So this session has been scheduled for 1 hour or less, probably 30 minutes at max. If you've got questions, we'll be able to answer those. Um, but it just basically we'll be running through just basically what other people have done in other markets, so that you can familiarize yourself with other startup ecosystems. What's important for you to pick here is to pick one, the category of startups that are being created in the continent of Africa at country level, and also the sectors, and also obviously how much investment is being attracted. So my name is Moketi Benedict Bekere. I'll be the one leading this session on behalf of the Global Entrepreneurship Group. So we will now at this point project the presentation. Please feel free to ask any questions along the way. So like I said, innovation maps that we're talking about, a number of visual, pictures that show um, existing tech ecosystems in emerging markets. And here we have Botswana and Africa and other regions. So what I would like to start with showing you is in 2020 is that you see that the largest number of startups that are now there is health tech startups. You can look at the type of countries where these startups are coming from. If you look at the map quite closely, you will pick on my cursor that the biggest country there is South Africa next to us, meaning that they have the largest number of startups that have been picked. Then you also pick Zimbabwe. Then you also pick Namibia. Then you also followed by picking Angola and Malawi, of course. So it's interesting. And Tanzania. And as you go up in the map, you do pick countries like Rwanda, who also have a couple of startups that are health tech focused. And if you look on this left side, which is your right, you see that the type of companies that these guys are developing are companies that range from telehealth to health, health information management, bookings, um, medical equipment, pharmacy and marketplaces, medical supply chain, mental health, biotech, and the list goes on, as you can see, and even medical clinics. So what's key is for you to measure that, in places like Nigeria, if you pick Nigeria, you see that there's a lot of startups. So what that means is basically there's been a lot of money thrown into also these. But if you go up in Africa, you see countries like Egypt that emerge. And then, as you go there also on top, you do pick that other country. It's Algeria and Tunisia. And you see, I mean, this is how you map the type of tech startups that are created in any particular economy at any particular time. So as we scroll down, you will pick, okay, there is no health tech startup in Botswana, so that's an opportunity. Um, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say there isn't, but there hasn't been a mapping of maybe the health tech ecosystem, so we could easily pick as to why here there is a blank. Then let's look at the other sector here, which is streaming. So what this says is that the highest startup sector that you pick in Africa is health tech currently. Then what follows it is any startup that's built around streaming, sports, comics, and gaming. And if we look at the map, we see streaming is the top. Okay, we pick streaming from South Africa again. We also pick from Nigeria, right? Then we pick from Egypt. Still again in Botswana, we pick there is 0. Okay, now that's an interesting element because you need to ask yourself why we haven't picked, because even in countries like Zimbabwe, you can see some of the startups. Kenya, you can see some of the startups. This is the practicality of what's currently happening. So it's not my data, but now when we go to the third sector being environment, okay, startups that are dealing with waste management, it could be, you know, plastic recycling or recycled material or waste to energy, as you wish, or it could be software or medical waste. You still pick that South Africa has the highest number of startups, followed by Nigeria. Then you also have Kenya, a little bit of Kenya and Tanzania. Then you do have, you know, your top countries that are at the top of the African map. You still have 0 in Botswana. I mean, okay, in Botswana, when you look, we see a few dots there. It means we have got 2 startups that have been mapped and picked. Okay, that's great. But not so sure why that 2, but my anticipation is that we should actually have some more. Okay, so if you also look, you see that there are countries like Mauritius in the map, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, Sudan, Tunisia, Algeria, Mauritania, the Gambia, Burkina Faso, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, da, da, da. Okay, now we move on to and remember, the data is for Q1 of 2020, so it means it's the latest data that these guys have. Now we come back to the third one. You know, the first one obviously I've talked about it. The third one being e-commerce. So e-commerce is one of the biggest opportunities in Africa. To be specific, you still pick your main countries being South Africa. You pick also obviously Nigeria being one of the countries. Then you pick the ones on the top, Egypt and so on, and a bit of Kenya. So what this says to you basically is the same what I explained, that there's a lot of Pan-African e-commerce platforms in all these countries, and they're all addressing problems like retail, online marketplaces, food delivery. I think in Botswana we do have like something called My Foodness app, but now I think they've been picked in Tanzania, where they moved. Yeah, I think all of you guys know My Foodness app, but of course, I mean, we do have some that I've just seen on Twitter. That came out of COVID. Everybody's delivering food, so I don't know why there isn't a mapping of some of these guys. Of course, the other sector that you pick is the electronics, logistics, supply chain, vehicle marketplace, the health and medical, distribution elements. So if you look in Botswana, you can pick My Foodness app. That's I can't see closely which one this one is, but there is like three startups from Botswana that have been picked, which is good news, and also an opportunity for others to come in. Okay, when we look at education ventures or startups, there's more than 200 plus educational startups that are either platform businesses, MOOCs, school management software, bots or tutoring platforms, supporters, da da da. So in Botswana, we know the famous Classmate, which is now working with BTC and also the Botswana Innovation Hub. I know I have the privilege to know one of the founders of this company. Very interesting guy. As to whether they're making money, topic for another day. But again, the trend just shows you there's something quite heavy in South Africa, something quite heavy here in Kenya and Rwanda and Tanzania, something heavy there up there in Ethiopia, South Africa, and Nigeria also down there. Then it becomes interesting because you see on top of Libya and these other countries, you begin to pick Morocco, uh, Guinea, Senegal, Niger, and it's the dark here point. It shows you that's where the ed tech startups are actually succeeding quite a lot. So where there is no marker, it could be that there isn't adoption of a lot of tech. I mean, look at Nigeria. I mean, just interesting. But look at South Africa also. But look at Egypt. You look at Morocco. You look at Rwanda, it's one or two. But when you look at Kenya, it's quite a lot because Kenya just shows you that there's a lot of stuff happening there, right? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so that was 2020. So what we picked from Brighter Bridges is that the top three sectors that are driving startups right now, as of 2020, it's edtech ventures or education ventures. Then it's followed by e-commerce companies. Then it's waste. Then it's streaming, sport, and gaming. Okay, being number two. Then number one is medical or healthcare or digitizing healthcare, basically. So, and you pick the difference as you are looking at the map. So this is the current map that these guys have produced that shows you what is currently happening. So let's just scroll down. And then these innovation maps, I mean, places like Gaborone should easily come up with their own innovation maps to show who's doing what way. Not on a report, but just the way you're seeing it. That's the sort of work I expect, the ecosystem to do. This is part of the result of proper ecosystem mapping. So, and I'm trying to deliberately show it so that everybody appreciates that what we're trying to call for, which is a startup ecosystem. It would look like this. It won't be like the juices that everybody's packing or the worms that people are putting in plastic bags. No, not really. I mean, we are talking about software as a service companies, what we call SaaS startups. Okay. So, but anyway, let me just show you also like what happened in 2019. Now, if you look at this ecosystem of startups, it's quite like a $1 billion industry because look at the deals that happened in 2019. In 2019, there was $1 million worth plus deals in startups. Okay, where did they take place? Okay, maybe first let's see which sectors were top. Fintech is probably one of the highest top sectors that are of interest right now. Fintech is then followed by mobility or logistics. You would all know why, because we move a lot of commodity in Africa, right? Then it will be followed by energy. If typically you look in Botswana, sun all year round, you need energy, you need electricity. Multiple number of people are still offline, so you still need that. Then you look at health as number four. If you look on the left here, which is my left, which is your right, you see that there are other sectors like ag tech, mobility, education, consumer experience, web access, deep tech. I don't know who's doing deep tech in Africa at this point, but there's also gov tech. Gov tech would be solutions for government. Okay, but now let's try to quickly look at the deals. You can see that there were deals which were worth more than $40 million. And I think you might know some of the companies, like for example, InterSwitch was bought or IPO'd at a deal of 200 million, being at the top of it. It's a fintech. Then it was followed by another one. I don't know the name, but it's P. They were at $170 million. Then when you scroll down, you also see Andela. I think everybody knows about Andela. So Andela is like a very famous startup company that we had, um, which was training software developers across Africa. So, so guys, I mean, this is the sort of work that is happening right now around startups, and it's very practical. But when you look in Botswana, it's all dark. Holy, so not that there is nobody, but I think it's just that we haven't done the mapping, because you can see deals have happened in Zambia, deals have happened in Rwanda, deals have happened in Kenya, about 18 deals. In South Africa, 26 deals were actually. So if you look here, you see the numbers. So 100 million pula, you convert it to pula, you tell me how much it's. That's 1 billion, okay? And that's the sort of ticket sizes that these startups are with. And remember, Andela was a Nigerian company. They have now set up in Kenya. They've set up in tried to set up in. But also in South Africa, you pick another startup that's famous. Just trying to go down to explain this map to you. So you do see also, like in Zimbabwe, they do have a startup which is called Paid Up. Zambia, they do have something. Kenya, Ghana, Senegal, Algeria. So I think we need to push ourselves a bit, because for me, it didn't make sense why some of our guys are just not um, in this stuff. So it's a bit awkward for me, but we see what we can do. So while I try to come back to screen, if you've got questions, this might be a good time to throw in your question um, to the Facebook live feed. We'll be able to pick that question about what you think is practically possible with these with mapping such a system for Botswana, right? So let's see if we can make some progress here. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, okay. So guys, we're just gonna project back so that everybody else can see what we're talking about. Mm, Okay, great. So since we're back on the stage, we're now gonna show you what we were talking about. So if you look at what I was talking about is the ecosystem and funding landscape is actually very huge. I mean, here, like I said, you've got deals happening which are worth more than $40 million. As you had me talk about InterSwitch, which is a fintech, spoke about Andela, I spoke about. I mean, these companies are like being acquired at the summer. This $200 million, by the way. But if you look also, there's another South African company called Aero Robotics. Where are they? South Africa. Yeah, this is an agri-tech startup, and they were acquired for over 100 million rand. But in Zimbabwe they also have this startup, but in Botswana there is nothing, like I said. So you guys have to do a lot of work in coming up with startups. So you can see that all the deals that were made on these companies were above $1 million. So that's like every company was probably the investment ticket size was above 10 million pula typically. So now let's look at the 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 organizations that are investing money. So a lot of people say there's no money. That's the biggest lie. Actually, there's more than 250 plus investment firms that are putting money in startups. As you can see, I mean, there hasn't been any picked in Botswana, but in South Africa, there's quite a lot of them. You can see all the guys funding. Namibia, same. Zambia, same. Congo, the same. Okay, interesting that we have Congo, but no Botswana. But you also pick that in Egypt and Morocco, you do have Senegal, you do have Cote d'Ivoire, you have Ghana, and you can see, guys, that Ghana and Nigeria are quite strong on this area of startup. But if you look like on this side, you do have also the Africa Business Angels Network that puts money through angel investment, and there are those that do what we call corporate investment, or who are VCs, corporate VCs. Okay, and then there are those that are government, like you know the World Bank, IFSC, the AFD from France, the Nor Fund from Sweden. Okay. Then I don't know who these other guys are. But then, of course, you also have like foundations and philanthropy and NGOs. So, like, I think you guys know about UNICEF. So, UNICEF does actually fund startups. A lot of people don't know this, but UNICEF funds a lot of startups from what I've seen. And we can try to hide it, but the truth of the matter is a lot of the startups that get money from MasterCard, Norowski Foundation in Sweden, and the others are not really in places like Botswana, because Botswana is middle income. So nobody wants to give you guys money because the country has a lot of money. Okay. Okay, now let's talk at the global. Let's look at it from a global perspective, but with a focus on Africa. So you can see that everybody else from around the world wants to give money and fund startups in Africa. No, nobody's really refusing to do it because that's where the opportunity is. So that's why it's green. It shows that like it's like green field for everybody, and everybody just wants to fund, but there's not enough deals. So you can see from Dubai to Kuwait to Beirut to Vienna to Frankfurt, all the money is coming from around, even from the US, okay, even from China, even from Singapore. There's people who are interested in putting money in Africa. So like this whole talk about there's no money to fund, there's not enough money, it's a lie, as you can see. Okay, so now I got a question like, how many hubs are there in Africa? Who's actually building the pipeline? So you guys should just know this. There's, as of today, like currently now, there's over 643 yeah, hubs across Africa. So this data obviously is collected through GSM, and I think they have the latest data. And these are core working space accelerators, innovation hubs, and incubators. So, and there's actually quite a lot of incubators, and you see that there's few accelerators. So I'm taking into account that you all know the difference between all of these things. So I'll just try to explain this. So an incubator would be like a space which gives you it's a space like the Botswana Innovation Hub. They don't take equity, they just give you, they welcome anybody in, and then they incubate, like the word incubate. They help you build your pitch deck up to a business plan and so on. Then they make introductions for you to the financiers. But then of course there are those that are like now innovation hubs. So innovation hubs would be like what the Botswana Innovation Hub is. Like it's a specialty hub that's meant to work with entrepreneurs and basically like it's specialty. It's tech focused. So like these guys should be probably not just taking everybody, but they don't, I hope. But it's specialty. That's why it says innovation hub. And there is, yeah, like these science parks, all these things, they fall within that. Now, an accelerator is meant for acceleration, like it says. So you've already gone into incubator, whatever, in innovation hub. Now you need to go into an accelerator. It could be a corporate accelerator, or it could be, an individually owned or privately owned accelerator. Now, the interest with accelerators is that their business model is quite different. They take equity. So they give you money, but then they take a percentage in your business. So I don't know of some that don't, but I know like Stanbic Bank has like its own accelerator, DBS has, but these are not like typical accelerators because these are corporate accelerators. So how they give you money indirectly is that they bring in their staff or employees who utilize their expertise to help you. So in some way, it's like some equity collective model, which is they don't want to talk about. But then there are these things called co-working space. So co-working space would be where you can work with multi people. You don't own a desk or anything in office or whatever. Like what they have in South Africa, it's called Workshop 17. They've got one in Cape Town, one in Joburg. You can just get there, find coffee, and then work. It's like these little places with coffee and a nice desk and a nice boardroom. It's for people on the go. And I don't know why you don't have a lot of co-working spaces in Gaborone, France. But if you look at the map, it shows you, like in Botswana, you have five of them, five of um, innovation hubs or incubators, if you want to call them. Um, then Angola has 8, South Africa has 78. Now you see, so what this says sometimes is the more your country has a lot of incubators, the more people are building companies. Because if you look at South Africa as 78, but look at Nigeria as 90. So that's why these two countries are leading in terms of startups, okay? But you also look at Kenya, why it's number 3, they've got 50. Okay, so incubator. So try to copy the same with Zimbabwe, they've got 23, which is quite interesting. Tunisia 36, Algeria 15, Morocco 34. So you can see. So Botswana 5. I mean, that's shocking. But so anyway, we now deep dive in renewable energy startups. You can see that there's more than 150 solar energy startups companies which are receiving money. So that's interesting data. I don't know why there isn't one, but you guys have solar all year round in Botswana, right? Now, in terms of Africa's smart cities, we do have like some cities that are connected to the internet who are leveraging technology all year round. So look at them. You look here, you've got in South Africa, they have what they call the waterfall city. And then in Kigali, they have what they call the Kigali Smart City. So now, now this should make sense to a lot of you. Why you always talk a lot about Rwanda, okay? You talk a lot about Rwanda because of this very thing here that they have. Because what it means, if you look in practice, is that everything of theirs is utilizes in Industry 4.0. That means they've got internet of things, they've got utilities, got everything of theirs is digital. They use sensors. So yeah, and I think there's the other one that you guys will know about, the one that Acon is building. It's called the Acon Atlantic. Yeah, so maybe somebody should build like one in Botswana and call it maybe Silicon Delta if you want, whatever you may think necessary. So, okay, now let's go back to digitizing the aspect of mobility. You can see there are startups that are really working on green tech or so on, or digitizing services. You can see that guys creating interesting stuff in South Africa, Zambia, but you see a lot of it in East Africa and up in North Africa, because there a lot of people use a lot of bikes, and then also in West Africa. That's why there's a lot of these startups doing this stuff. So this is how you would map logistics per country. Botswana still has one or two. You can see one here from Botswana, but then you still need more typically. So these are companies that you need companies that transport stuff basically, because you can't, not everybody's going to go pack things in the factory. So you do need e-commerce to go together with logistics. So now let's look at artificial intelligence startups in Africa. So there's currently 75. So if you know a bit about artificial intelligence, data analytics, or so on, this would be an interesting sector to get into, because you can see in South Africa there's still few, Nigeria few, Ethiopia and Kenya few. So it's quite an opportunity, I would say. So now let's look at the food. I know everybody loves food, but guys, look, we all have to eat, right? So that's why the map looks green. So if you look at this map, you see that there is a lot of organizations working on what they call agtech. Some are providing funding, some are providing technical expertise. So with the whole excitement of Botswana, I think you can pick the famous one that you know from Botswana, M Agri. I see M Agri here, Matistimela startup. I also see Mudisa R. So these are startups that are there, validated, and I think they are all doing advisory services. Mudisa R, I think, does advisory services. Then I think M Agri is a bit more market information, weather patterns, but also, so you can just look on this side, that agriculture has a lot of opportunity in terms of the need for startup. But then who you also pick that you still need a lot more in Botswana. Okay, so now as of, you can see now the data shows 618 tech hubs. I've already, so you need to know there's a difference between a tech hub and just another innovation hub, okay? Does that make sense? Great, feel free to ask a question along the way. So you will see that countries like Morocco have got 31 tech hubs. So these are technology driven. Tunisia has 29, Egypt 56. Okay, does Botswana have a tech hub? No, you guys don't have a tech hub. You have an innovation park and a science park. Okay, so don't blame people when they take you into the park. It's because the way it's designed. It's not a tech hub. That's why we don't pick it there. Okay, but we can discuss it if you guys feel like it's different. Then, of course, you can see the organizations that support tech hubs. You can see Microsoft, Orange Fab Lab, MTN, Airbus, Founders Factory, yeah, even Facebook. So you also pick organizations like Gen, which are major networks. So that's why we are running Gen Botswana, because we know like it's a very strong organization. So if you want the difference, like from what I explained, it's all explained here, what a tech hub is, and you can understand like this one is for tech entrepreneurs. It's also in black and white here. Then co-working, like I said, is this facility. Incubator is in kind, like for any stage also. Accelerator is those guys what control number. Like okay, great. So we're gonna go down now to just, I'm not gonna talk about this. So if you look at like the regions in Africa, I want to talk about Francophone. This is the picture of Francophone in terms of the startup landscape. But now let's talk about the startup landscape in terms of angel investors. So you find that these people that fund startups with their own money, these people now what they've done is they've created what is called the Africa Business Angel Network. Now these are a series of networks that it's basically wealthy individuals who come together and they put money together. And I know this was inspired out of the Global Business Angels Network, which is started by another lady called Candace Johnson, very wealthy lady who invests in startups and inspired a guy called Tommy Davis, who then uh, came together with other people and then they started creating the Africa Business Angels Network. And as you can see, in South Africa, they do have what is called DESO, which is a female-based angel network, which invests only in females and is run by females. We also have Josie Angels, which is in Joburg. I know the one of the guys running this, a good friend of mine. Then we've got the Southern, okay. Then we also have, I think, Namibia Business Angels Network. You guys saw my colleague and friend Jesiah on the platform the other day. He's actually launched Namibia Business Angels. So this map is a bit outdated, but then you also see Cairo Angels there. Then you also see the Gambia Business Angels Network. So there's been quite a lot of them, and then you also see the famous Lagos Angel Investor Network, which is there, right? Yeah, and then in Kenya we have the VBAN, which is the Victoria Business Angels Network. So now, practically in terms of mapping startups, this is what one would do to see the results and make sure, like, so it's always about practicality, like I said, so, and if you look at this picture, it tells you what the market needs and what people need to pay. So if it's e-commerce, I would advise us to look at that. And then if it's energy, we would look at that. If it's ag tech, we'll look at that. Okay. So feel free to browse the Brighter Bridges innovation maps to see the work that they've done. It's very impressive, as you can see. I mean, it can be used as a reference point, and I hope that those that were watching through the week, they can get inspired for us to create something like this and move on. But of course, it won't be free. Somebody has to fund it. So those that are listening, it'd be great for us to partner so we can create a map. So guys, that's about it. Um, if you enjoyed this presentation or mapping, feel free to ask any questions at this point. I'll be happy to answer. We've got 5 minutes before coming to the conclusion. Um, and like I said, the idea was to show you the different innovation maps that exist in Africa. And I think you've seen it with your own eyes. It's going to help you to think a bit broadly when you speak about innovation, right? Because a lot of people think like we're just talking stuff, but this is practical stuff. Like this is stuff that's been created. A lot of people have seen it. So I think that's it. We stop here. We pick any questions if there are any, and then we are happy to um, take the comments in the comment section and then try to plan ahead about a further engagement on how we can do this with universities and those that are working with startups. So that's it from me. Okay, no questions so far. What we're gonna do is just thank you guys for making time to listen to this session. Um, this session has been recorded. You'll find the information on the Global Entrepreneurship Week Botswana Facebook page. You'll also find the information on our uh, YouTube channel, which is One Africa. Please do kindly subscribe on One Africa Facebook page, but also follow us on Global Entrepreneurship with Botswana. And also, finally, of course, do make sure you join genglobal.org, GEN global.org. genglobal.org, as you can see it here on top of the screen. Just become a member so that you can enjoy some of this content. So I would like to thank you for listening, and I wish you a very good Saturday, and look forward to you guys attending our closing ceremony tomorrow. You are all invited. All right, cheers.